Hey everyone, Designer Lily here. Finally got it together with my lighting and my camera distance. As you may have noticed in my previous videos, the camera was super up close to my face, and I finally figured out a happy medium to shoot this, and I feel like I actually look like myself. But anyways, today I'm going to answer some of the questions you all have sent me in my weekly Q&A on Instagram, and I finally got some time to sit down after my hair appointment today. So I'll be answering your questions, anything career to UX to product design to personal. Without further ado, let's go. The first question starting off, and I'm not even making this up, it's asking, how do I get to be as awesome as you? No one can be as awesome as anyone else because no one can be the best version of someone else. Only being the best version of you, as corny as it sounds, finding out what really makes you unique through the life experiences you had, through your natural abilities, is what's gonna make you the only awesome version of yourself that will ever exist. I am so afraid of interviews, says another question asker. Well, here's the thing, I used to hate interviews too, and to this day, they're still not my favorite thing to do because of that uncomfortable power balance. It's never something that is quite enjoyable unless you're just interviewing for fun and you really don't care the outcome and you're literally just doing it for practice. But aside from that, when you're actually trying to get a real job offer from an interview, there really isn't a point where I would say it's a comfortable or enjoyable experience because of the fact someone has something over you that you want. However, it can be still a great learning experience, and to overcome that really is just repetition like everything else, doing as many interviews as you can, practicing your skills for interviewing, like rehearsing the scenarios in your head, visualizing what's going to happen, and just get out there and do it. And at a point, it's going to feel pretty much like you've known every scenario that might happen and you have at least hashed out in your mind what you're going to do for each scenario, so that makes it a lot better. How do you manage your finances? Personally, I don't really have anything fancy or anything that's super detailed in terms of bookkeeping. I keep it really simple. I just look at what I spent for the month through my credit card and able to track where I spend it from as an overview. But really, most of the time, I just have this budget in my head of how much I should be spending a month or what is my cap. As long as I don't go over that limit, I'm pretty good. However, I've also realized that being too frugal is something that is limiting in a mindset. So when I see something I really want, I ask, how can I afford this? For example, I really want to go to the Olympics this year in Tokyo because one of my favorite teams is playing there, the Chinese women's volleyball team with Zhu Ting. So basically what the ticket was originally sold for is like 5 to 7x times the price. And it seems a lot to pay for that, and you know obviously the flights are going to be jacked up, the hotels are going to be jacked up. However, for me, that experience is so invaluable. I mean, the last time they had Olympics in Tokyo was like 1964, and this may be the last time my favorite team and favorite player is ever going to play. This is a lifetime experience, and I think when that situation calls for, there is times that, you know, there is no budget because this is once in a lifetime event and I'm going to remember forever. Basically, to the point is I have some kind of daily routine budget that I try to keep under, or at least monthly routine. But if there's something in my life that I really think is valuable and it's once in a lifetime opportunity, I am not afraid to spend a lot of money on it. I will find a way to afford it. Your daily dose of inspiration. I love to watch other creators who are in the space, as well as read books and just surround myself with higher level thinking. I've noticed that if I'm on the feed of, you know, the general Instagram / TikTok community where it gives you very generic dating drama advice, most people know who toxic people are. It's very generic advice. It's not going to be something that feeds your intellect or feeds your yearn for growth and learning more. So I try to stay away from content that's too generic like that, or reality TV, things like that, or even the news, because it's very sensational based. It's very like you against them. And as I've grown, I'm trying to be more holistic in how I approach thinking, try to be more objective and, you know, zoom back and see things as is, not judging good or bad. And I think it helps you or me or anyone become a calmer person once you're able to do that. I enjoy being a generalist product designer who dives in PM stuff. Is this okay? Yeah, this is great. PMs have told me they wish there was more designers who think like a PM. I know it sounds kind of biased. PMs in general like to work with designers who are business or holistically approaching a problem, so they're not just fighting for the user or the design, as in like design principles, but also seeing how we can bridge that gap from what the business needs, how the business needs to survive with what users actually want. When you're able to think PM in terms of everyone that's within my team, that's a powerful mindset, and PMs have said this over and over again. They wish more designers had this. How to avoid feeling burnout when you have tight deadlines. This is a tough one because I'm not really sure how I would define burnout for myself. I heard this really great quote, and I'll kind of summarize it, which is like, the reward is not merited enough for the effort. So the reward is not sufficient enough for the amount of effort you're putting in. I don't really know how to answer this one, because if you're feeling a burnout when you have tight deadlines, maybe you think that your boss or your team is like, they're giving you too much to do, where to a point where you're not feeling valued as a team member, which is kind of what this is like sounding like. Or you're stretched out so thin that you never see the impact of your work, you don't get that fulfillment. That's probably when you'll experience burnout. And it's really hard for me to answer this one because I'm not you. I'm just imagining how I would feel if I was in that situation, or how I would experience this. If I were you, I would evaluate why you're feeling burnout aside from the deadlines part. Is it because you're not finding fulfillment in the work? Is it not speaking to you? Or do you not feel that you're not seeing the impact? Or perhaps the work environment itself is just not very healthy? I think there's a bigger picture there. Like, the problem you're having is a part of a larger problem. What are some of the common mistakes people make on their portfolios? Great question. I get this one a lot as well, and to keep this concise, one of the biggest problems I see is people try to present the entire process and basically what they should be presenting in a formal presentation. As y'all know, the pitch deck is the closer and the portfolio is the teaser/trailer. When you're having a portfolio, people really have at tops 3 to 5 minutes they spend on your website, and 5 is being very generous. People aren't really there to read a lot of text. They're not really there to like see your process. They're really there to see why you're valuable. Like, you have to really sell yourself. Your portfolio is there to show people you're valuable. This is what you brought to whatever company or project that you were in. And then if they want to learn more, reach out to you, and that's when you give them the full movie, which is the pitch deck presentation. Another thing is that people try to avoid sharing their personal story or making it unique. They try to give really generic one-liners. But the fact is, the more you stand out in your own way, the better it is, because you're trying to tailor your portfolio to that one manager who's just like you, or maybe is really hearing your message. So for example, I've had designers who I knew got hired in really good companies and really good roles simply because their background really matched that of the managers. And when you can speak that story really well to whoever wants to hear it or needs to hear it, it doesn't matter that, 80% of managers are going to skip over your portfolio. That's not the point. The point is 20% who are going to respond back and give you the offer, because it only takes one. How important is it to speak and write well in English to be successful in the UX industry? Well, if you're working in an English-speaking country, it is very important, especially because most of UX work actually is not really designing the tool. But if you calculate the amount of hours a full-time designer spends in a company, most of it is communications, whether through email, documentation, Slack messages, in-person conversations, meetings. I mean, the list goes on. Really, when you are a designer, it's actually more of influence and alignment work than it is actual design work. And one of my mentors who I talk about a lot, who recommended me the book About Face, my godfather book, says that design is actually 99% alignment and 1% design, which is a bold claim on the surface. But then when you actually work in the industry, especially in the startup world, you really understand that it's a lot about strategy, a lot about alignment, a lot about influence, and only when everything else is sorted out in terms of communicating with your team, where you are, where you're trying to build, when that communication is clear and everyone's agreeing on the same page, it's naturally going to be an outcome of the conversations. How'd you get your hair done? It looks nice. Thank you. This was actually a question I got in my previous haircut, but sometimes I dye it myself, sometimes I get it done. Like today, I got it done right before filming this video. I had it like all hair blown out and all straightened, so it looks sleek and shiny. And this is salon quality hair that I am too lazy to do myself. But usually in all my videos, you see they're just how my hair usually like is when I wake up, or how it is after simple brushing. I never really do much fancy things with it. The most, again, I do is occasionally color it here and there, but honestly at this point of my life, I'm probably going to just stick to salons or stick to just really simple hairdos, because there's just too much work invested into doing hair every day. I just try to keep everything simple. I mean, the most time I invest is probably skincare and then like some makeup. And that's it. Try to keep life as smooth as you can, to focus on what you actually want to build from your life, and hair is just not one of them. Like, I don't want to be someone who's proficient in hair. Sorry, that was a really long answer to your question, but now you know how I do my hair. Best book for research methods. Well, I don't do a ton of user research, as in I would say user research is part of what I do, but I'm not someone who does it always by the book academically. The most I do really is watching Hotjar or using the book Rocket Surgery by Steve Krug, who I deeply recommend. Another book I like is Just Enough Research by Erica, who, by the way, if y'all don't know, is the wife of Mike Montero. Crazy. I know, I didn't know this until I met them. Two power authors. I mean, you know, who can imagine? But yeah, that's a great book that I would recommend. So I don't do a ton of in-depth research myself. I do user testing and usability, user research, but that is not something I go too deeply on. What is the suggestion for young UX designer? Well, if I could travel back in time, I don't even know if I would believe myself, because if I hadn't been through the journey myself, the words that I'd give myself wouldn't even seem like real advice. It would just seem like cheesy mindset gibberish. I would tell myself that core character and your mental fortitude and who you are as a person will take you a lot further than any book, any workshop, any technical tip or skill that you may acquire will, because at the end of the day, I mean, things like being proactive, being a great communicator, having initiative to learn, that's not something that you can give to someone unless they have a desire and are self-motivated to take upon themselves to become that kind of person or practice those skills. If I could go back in time, I would tell myself that the mindset is a lot more important than the technical skills, which mentors have told me before that, but I just could never hear and understand the message until I had to do the digging and the work and interviewing and the rejections by myself. Your favorite UX podcasts? Well, I don't listen to that many UX podcasts before. Earlier, when I was transitioning, I did listen to a lot, but frankly speaking, a lot of them do end up sounding the same, and I would recommend more books. But one that is really fun that I listen to is Design Details, and the one I really like, which is not specifically design related, is Better Product, as well as HBR, Harvard Business Review. I think those two are great podcasts in keeping your pulse on the business world, the latest studies done in the business world with HBR, and then the latest products and latest innovators of product with Better Product. What do you do when you are out of motivation? It's a great question. What do I do? It's like something that people ask, but I don't know at this point. It's like I have built such a routine of doing things in terms of content and design that it's hard for me to think about what I do when I'm demotivated, because usually with design there's a deadline I have to meet because I have accountability with the other person. I mean, I gave them my word and I highly value keeping my word. That's just one of my life principles. If I say I'll reach out to someone, or if I say I'll do something, I try my very best to do it. I mean, I give you an example. When I said I was going to visit someone in another country, I really meant it. And like within a year, I actually did end up visiting that friend who was in Denmark, by the way, in another country, which I had never been to before. And it was just really random, but you know, I gave them a word and I did it. So for me, when I give someone my word, that is my accountability. I find reasons to stay accountable with people. I find reasons to put pressure on myself, so I will stay, you know, en route. I'm not slacking off. I also find mentors who I meet with regularly and I have something to show them. So again, that's motivation. I also try to watch videos that make me think of, you know, really cutting down things that are not serving me. So constant reminder of those. And I would say that sometimes when it's just too much and I'm having a really hard time overcoming something, I will just go play volleyball, or like I did, I went to Hawaii, took 2 months of break, walked outside, felt the sunshine on my face, and went back and had a great reset. So yeah, a really long-winded answer to your question, but to sum it up is you have to find things that you know are going to make you work. You really have to know yourself as a person, be honest with who you are, and once you know what makes you tick or what makes you move or emotionally take action, because all action is actually emotionally based. So once you know that, you'll be able to better motivate yourself. What was your first internship? One of my first internships, or I think this is the first one, is that I designed packaging for a French chocolate company called C'est Moi, and this is when they first were trying to broaden their reach into the US. So they told me that the European market was really saturated because there was a lot of chocolate makers already, and they were trying to expand starting with New York City, and they had like a small office there. So I was able to help them translate and design new packaging, as I myself spoke French before and I was in school for arts and design. And then another one of my cool internships I want to share is that I interned for Obama under the executive office of the president and on the White House campus, which was a neat experience just to see how it was like working inside the government. And personally, I'm glad I'm in Silicon Valley high tech right now, but it was nice to see another world and understand what didn't really work for me and what I wanted to get for my next role. Lily, you're really cool and I hope we can be friends one day. If you're in San Francisco ever, hit me up and we can grab coffee or a smoothie or whatever. Okay, last question because my voice is starting to give out. Can you give some advice on portfolio presentation for interview? Thanks. Yes, I will say that the number one thing that's helped me is to run my portfolio through as many designers as I can and show them, and you would be surprised. What I found out was people need to be told and communicate things in the clearest and simplest way. I mean, this most straightforward way. Like, imagine you're selling a product to a customer. This is like how you would treat a pitch deck portfolio presentation. It's like, how do you speak to them in ways that they will understand what you're thinking, right? So when you're presenting a case study, they have no idea what happened. I mean, they weren't you, they didn't do the work, so they're coming outside from another perspective of trying to understand and catch up as you're talking. And I realized that I had a lot of slides that were just too complex, and I had a lot of feedback that diagrams that I was showing were just too hard to understand while I was talking, even though I again made a wrong assumption that, oh, you know, because these are people who are advanced in product and design, they should just be able to know what I mean. But no, nobody is really able to understand you inside your head like you think they are, so you have to explain to them in a way where it's so simple that when I showed my brother, who was 12 at the time, my presentation, he was able to understand the concepts. So it's gotta be that level of clarity in order for them to understand more advanced nuances in your presentation. And again, when you are doing presentations and you're showing a lot of designers, you get a lot of feedback right off the bat that you would not expect. I mean, it's like really surprising some of the things that people got stalled over. It was completely different than what I expected. Earlier on, like even starting with the first case study, I would grab some designers and start showing them as soon as you can, because you don't want to build a full presentation deck and everyone's just like lost afterwards because, you know, maybe your format was too confusing or you didn't really construct a narrative in a way that they really wanted to pay attention to. So these things are essentially the same principles as user testing. And I think that's one of the best things I did for myself, was having someone who was there to review my presentation. When I had that, it was also a way for me to be accountable and show up with something to present. So I was able to get my presentation done faster, as well as getting better presentation out because I had real people that were giving me responses and pressure and, you know, the eyes staring at you when you're in presentation mode. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I'm so glad you all submitted your questions to me on Instagram. If you would like to submit more questions to me on Instagram, please just DM me at DesignerLily, and my website is designerlily.com. I will be doing more of these in the future, probably bi-weekly, and I think this is a really good way for me to interact with people, as well as answering some of the questions you all have in a more in-depth way. With Instagram, there is a 1 minute limit. Well, actually, there's like a 30-second limitations for answering questions, and it's hard for me to answer questions thoroughly because sometimes, you know, I just go off a tangent of thoughts, and sometimes there's a lot to say, and you don't really get to see more of my personality, so I'll be doing more of these here. Yeah, thank you all so much for the support and for just following me and watching my video, leaving such kind comments. I've gotten so much support from the product design community, from the tech community, from especially women creators and women in tech in this community, so thank you all so much. One more thing, I want to also say that I will be doing more YouTube videos from now on because I find that YouTube is a great format for me to be able to talk about something more in depth that TikTok and Instagram have too much of a limit on. So be sure to subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell button, as well as comment and like this video if you found this helpful. Also, I'll be launching freebies and courses on my designerlily.com page. I would really appreciate it if you all checked it out. Give me some thoughts on what you would like to see in my shop, or give me some thoughts on the things already up there. And yeah, see you all next time. Thank you so much. Oh, and one more thing. I know I said one more thing, but this is the last thing. If y'all could think of some kind of cute nickname for my following or my friends, as in like fans and friends, I don't know, I'm like thinking like lily pads, Patties, Buds. All I've had so far are Buds because, like, you know, a bud becomes Lily. I'm gonna let that sink in, so just if you have any suggestions for cute nicknames, please comment below. Thank you all and see you next time. Bye.